Okay, so today I'm making a video on a song recorded in early 2017. The song's called The Deadening by Dread Lightly. It's one of my one song type projects. Me and a local guy here from Mount Gambier, Damien Aline, put this together between the two of us. I played all the instruments and he did the vocals. He's an amazing vocalist. He is the best male vocalist I've ever worked with. He plays guitar. I think he plays drums too. He's not in a band at the moment, so if you've got any awesome music and you need a singer, you should hit him up, Damien Aline. So this song was originally mixed by Dave Petrovic at Electric Sun Studios in Sydney. The reason why I have it pulled up today is because I've just finished mixing the newest Admela single. It's not out yet and it won't be for a little while, but it took me like a month straight of me working on it in all my spare time. It was just grueling. The mix was super convoluted. There's so much stuff going on, and I just wanted to try and do it justice, and it took me ages to get there. Kind of like bummed myself out a bit, and once it was over, instead of taking a break, I thought that maybe I'll do a warm down mix. So just pick any random song, any random stems, open it up and just do a quick mix and have some fun, so I don't leave mixing on a bad note. Like I don't take a break and be scared to get back into it because I had a bad time before. So I just wanted to open something up and have some fun and kind of approach it in the way that I approach mixing the new Admela stuff. So here's the song, here's some of my mix. I'll just play up to the first chorus or something. Okay, so you get the idea. It's like a trad metal song with some cool synths and some awesome vocals, poppy sort of chorus. And so the way this was recorded, it's very different from the way I would record it now. Back then I had a recording studio, and this is kind of like one of the last projects I recorded in the studio. I wasn't taking on any more clients, but I was just trying to have some fun while I still had the space. And my engineering skills were definitely in their early stages back then. I did most of my good learning once I moved out of the studio, funnily enough, and just started experimenting and doing it for fun at home. So what happened was I recorded all the guitars and did all the synths and stuff like that, and then I brought Damien in to record me playing the drums for it. And I didn't really have any ideas of what I was going to do. I just kind of jumped on the kit and he pressed record. I'd do a few takes and try different stuff, and then I'd come into the control room and we'd listen through it and talk about what was good and what could be better. And he had a lot of good ideas because he's also a drummer. So I think the drum take portion of the song probably took, at least an hour. And because we were writing while we were going, it's not like I was going back in there and tuning the snare or checking anything like that. So the snare tuning just wavers all through the song. It's going depending on what take I've chosen. If it's one of the earlier takes, the snare is still tuned higher. If it's one of the later takes, the snare is way down there. So when it came to mixing it, I felt like I kind of missed the mark on the recording a little bit. So I wanted to pass it off to someone else to mix, and I knew that I'd have to use drum samples and stuff like that to make it sound good. in my quick mix here, I haven't used any drum samples. I've just used what's there, and I've gotten around the drum tuning issues in some ways. I can show you. Okay, so let's have a listen to this snare drum, just the snare top mic, so you can kind of see what I'm talking about with the tuning jumping up and down. So this is just the snare top mic. We'll go from here. It just went up a bunch there. Back down. Yeah. Back down. Alright, and so if I go to the last part of the song, the last chorus, because I know I actually recorded this last, the snare tuning will be very low. Yeah, that part is way down there. And so as you can hear, it's very distorted, so I thought if I just distorted the crap out of it, those overtones and the tuning, you can't really tell as much what's going on there, and it kind of just gels into the distorted guitars and stuff like that. So I'm just going to solo the drum bass so you can hear what the drums sound like. So you can probably hear from part to part the drum sound changes a little bit with the effects and stuff I have going on. So let's have a look at some of this processing I did. So as I said, I just finished mixing an Admela song and I was kind of frustrated, so I just wanted to get in there and like compress the crap out of some stuff and really distort some stuff. So we'll start with let's start with the kick drum. This is all the kick mics summed. Sounds like this. So as you can hear, it's like a really roomy kick sound. The way this kick was recorded was, it was my Mapex 22-inch kick, and I just had the batter skin that came on it, which was just like it was a Mapex clear skin. I believe it was cracked, and it had like a drum, it had like a kick pad on it, and it was cracked because of the kick pedal I was using. All the foam had worn off, so it was just the plastic part was pretty much hitting the skin. All of those things are red flags. Like, I would not do any of that now. And it was mic'd up from the inside with a beta kick mic, like right up against the batter skin, with a bunch of pillows and stuff in the kick drum. So now you can probably see in the camera that there. That's the kick that I use most of the time now. It's a 26-inch by 14-inch Ludwig bass drum. It's like the John Bonham Sparkle bass drum. And I use coated skins on both sides because that sounds a lot better to me. And I don't put any deadening on the inside. I only put deadening on the resonant skin on the outside, and I lean a pillow up against it or something, and you can get the amount of deadening you want that way. I use a felt beater, and I always mic up the kick from the outside because I think that sounds a lot better. Me miking up the kick from the inside, I think, was just so I could always put a sample over it easily. I never actually liked the sound I got, which is probably why I always had to use samples until I figured this stuff out. So let's start with the kick room. So this kick room mic is actually just the drum room mic. So it was a U67, my one good mic, U67 tube mic, in the middle of the room to capture everything. It was going through a distressor, and what I've done here is I've just grabbed that mic and gated it to only open when the kick hits, just to get some more of that like airy, woofy overtones in the kick drum, just to make it sound more like a coated skin. So it's gated here. I've got this, I do this thing a lot where I'm sort of letting the high end of the drum come through for a split second, and then this is pulling it back so you get less cymbal bleed in there. I'll try and show you an example of that. So that's with it. This is without it. Without. Yeah, you can kind of hear it just like killing the cymbals a little bit, but still letting the attack of the kick through. This EQ is doing nothing. This pawn shop comp thing I'm using here, I haven't found much use for this yet, because anything you run through it, this does give it a particular sound. Like it rolls off the high end and it boosts like this 600 to 700 area, which is cool, but I've already EQ'd things normally the way I like them. If I put this on and it changes it, that I'm not happy with that. So the reason why I've used it is it has a really fast attack, fast release, and I've got it on 20 to 1, and I'm just using this to sort of get rid of the hard attack of the bass drum, and just try and sort of flatten it out so it's just this woofy, airy, roomy sound. So it sounds like this, and this is without it. Yeah, so it just has a lot more attack on it, and this thing kind of just pulls that back a bit, because all the punch and the attack is coming out of my close mics on the kick, so I just want this to add ambience. This valve exciter thing, I love this. I've had this for a while, but I think it's VST only, and I always use Pro Tools up until now, so I couldn't use it. I don't think you can get this anymore, but I use this a bunch on this mix, and it's heaps of fun. So I've got this harmonics all the way up, again, just to add like some overtones to the kick drum to give it a bit more character, to make it sound a bit more fun. A little bit of treble, bit of drive. I think this pentode mode has more high end, and this triad mode has less high end. Let's have a listen. Yeah, this one has a lot more air to it. So this is on, off. Yeah, that just makes it sound more fun. It gives it more like mid-range presence to cut through the guitars. Then I've got Saturn. And so what I'm doing with this is distorting the mid-range some more to make it longer and less attacky. And with the low end, I'm turning this dynamic. So what this thing does is it just makes stuff sound longer and have less attack. So if I want something to sound longer in the low end, have more sustain, I'll just chuck this on it and turn the dynamics all the way up. I'm not doing that in the mid-range. So I'll show you that on the low end. Yeah, it just makes it bloom for longer. So that's that. Another compressor, fast attack, fast release, just grabbing more of that attack again and just making it longer sounding. And then I'm really loving this, I'm really loving Audio Thing, the plugin designer at the moment. So this is just like a space echo emulation. And because I've got this gate, the hold to open it as long as I can until the snare hits with zero release, so it just goes like and then closes immediately. It sounds strange without this. I'll show you. It kind of cuts off abruptly, so this just helps it decay more naturally without letting the snare come through. That helps a lot. And then more EQ, just some punchy, some of that bloomy low end sound, and then just some cool mid-range. Yeah, that makes a big difference. Okay, so next thing I've got is, let's go to the kick out mic. I have no idea what this mic is. I know I used to use my U67 a lot to do this, but that was the room mic, so this was some kind of cheap condenser. I don't know what it would have been though. So this is outside the kick drum, and what I have done is it's gated. It's got this huge booty bass thing on it, which I don't really know what it does. When you open it up, the frequency starts on 100, and that's like my favorite kick drum punchy area. So I left it on that. I turned it all the way up, and then I turned the drive all the way up, because I was moving quickly and I thought it sounded cool, so I just left it on. It's a lot subbier with it off, but with it on, it's just got that cool punchiness. And then some EQ. Right, so I'm cutting off all the top end because I'm getting the top end from the kick-in mic. So this is just boosting a bunch of sub and cutting off this area where the snare sort of lives, because this song's pretty fast. I kind of want the kick and the snare to get out of the way of each other. So that's with the EQ. Okay, then we've got this kick-in mic. So this is that beta Shure mic right up against the skin. It's gated. Track spacer. I think this is getting triggered by the snare, so that this mic ducks out every time the snare hits. Yeah. It's kind of working, it's kind of not. It's just something I'm trying to experiment with at the moment. And then this is where the high cut is happening. So there's no low end in this mic, it's all top end. It's boosting some stuff there. Killing a resonance there. And then this valve exciter again. So I'm using the harmonics here to kind of make it have more cool overtones, make it again sound more like a coated skin. Boosting a bunch of treble, so much drive. Let's hear it. With aggressive. I mean, that sounds cool like that, but it's a bit narrow. And this will work through the guitars better like this. It's a bit unfair because it gets a bunch louder, but... Okay. So, what I'm doing here is... So sometimes what I do with Saturn is I actually use the distortion filters to boost sections. Like, I use it as an EQ basically, so I didn't need more of that, but obviously I wanted some more of all this junk. So sometimes instead of reaching for an EQ, I'll just try and EQ it through this by distorting areas more. That is just because it's distorted so much, I just don't want heaps of hi-hat coming through. It's not making a huge difference, but whatever. This, I just use this to set the level all the time. I wish that someone would make a volume plugin where you can literally just click around, because that's what I use this for. Like, when it's in the mix, I'm just like listening, clicking to find a volume instead of turning the wheel. I just want to click around to stuff. And like, this one should be like, you know, 3 dB increments on this fake volume plugin we're talking about. And then this one should be like 0.5. So you can like get in the general area here with these 3 dB increments, and then like the 0.5, you click around in 0.5 and you get it really in the ballpark with that one. Somebody should make that. I would use it all the time because that's what I use this for. Wow. Okay. Okay. So it is compressing it a bit. It shouldn't be, I don't think. It seems like I was just using it for... Yeah, I don't know. Okay, and the last thing on this kick-in mic is this API EQ. I'm boosting a bunch of 1K. That just always makes bass drums sound more fun to me. Less metal and more bouncy and fun. Without... Yeah, it just sounds more metal like that. That sounds cool like that. Yeah, it gives it more attack without making it sound clickier or metal-y. Alright, so the kick in and kick out mic are summed to this kick close bus. And we've got some compression on here. So this is a thing I saw Eric Valentine do in a video where he's using this R comp and this Kramer Pi after it. If I'm not doing this, normally I'll just use a distressor. So one thing I'm always aware of is the release. I want this to let go of the bass drum before the next bass drum hits. So I'll always have, on a fast song like this, I'll have the release as quick as I can get it and try and get the bass drum to zero out before it gets compressed again, because there's a lot of double kicks in this, and if it was compressing too much or the release was too slow, it would just get, the threshold would get lower and lower and lower as that part goes on further and the kick drum starts to sound really shit. So let's hear what this is doing. So it's doing a fair bit of compression, 6 dB, ratio of 8, and this is only doing a little bit. Okay, and then a CQ, just boosting some highs on the bus, and then some, trying to get some more low end out of it, because after you compress it, you normally lose a lot of this low end. It makes it a lot more attackier sounding, so I normally will have to do this. EQ on, EQ off. Yeah, so it needed that. Okay, so I do have a distressor on it as well. 6:1, it's only 50% blend. I guess it just makes it sound more smacky. Yeah, it just lengthens it a bit. And this is something I do sometimes. I feel a bit guilty about doing this, but it's really cool. It's just like a transient designer, I suppose. This is actually just like mastering clipper instead of a limiter, but this low punch sounds awesome on bass drum. Off, on. Yeah, it just adds this awesome punchy low end, and then just more satin, just distorting the 1K area. Yeah, it just sounds a bit more plastic-ish with it off. And then the last thing for the kick is this kick snare mic. So this isn't actually a kick snare mic. This is something Eric Valentine talks about a lot, is putting a condenser up to the batter side of the kick drum underneath the snare drum mic to get that cool knocky sort of mid-range to the kick. What I've done here is actually just taken the snare bottom mic and just gate it to open whenever the snare hits. It's not going to sound great, but it just adds a cool sort of more knocky character to the bass drum. Boosting a bunch of mid-range there. It's high pass. I don't want the low end in it. This thing makes it longer sounding. Track spacer pulling out the snare. This is just finding a volume, and then... Okay, so what I'm doing with this CLA 76 is, instead of automating the level, the volume of that mic, I've just automated that to come on in the louder parts, and then set a level which was all the way up through this. So it's kind of like automating level. So if you hear here in the chorus, it's quite loud. But if I click to the verse, it'll be a lot quieter, because this EQ is, this compressor is turned off. And that turns on here. Yep. And then just boosting some more knocky mid-range. So, with the kick close mics, this sounds like this. With the snare bottom mic, without. Yeah, it just makes it sound more fun. Okay, let's go to the snare. So, this snare drum was, you can kind of see it behind me, it's a pearl brass snare. So, the one I have, the serial number, it's from 81. So I think this is the snare that ended up becoming their pearl reference brass snare. These ones are free floaters, meaning there's no lugs or anything on the shell. The shell can just come out as a brass shell as itself, and then the lugs attach to the hoops and stuff like that. I first found this when I was at my friend's house, and his drummer left his drum kit there, and that snare was there, and I sat down and hit it, and immediately it was so loud. There's this massive pop, and this sound I haven't heard before. It was the first brass snare I've ever hit or heard in real life. And I was just like, whoa, this is so cool. I'd borrow it off him all the time to make recordings with people. Eventually, I got enough to buy one. They only cost like 300 or something bucks on eBay because you can only get them secondhand, and they're all pretty beaten up. I got mine. Mine sounds nowhere near as cool as his for some reason. It does have a lot of dents and a lot of issues like that, so it could be to do with that. I don't really use it anymore. But yeah, that was my first brass snare. The mic on this would be a Beta 57 right up to it. There's a bunch of moon gels on there. I don't know why I was doing this. It's because I thought it was a metal thing, so I wanted it to be short and clicky, but it's something I wouldn't do now. I don't use moon gels on the snare, and I wouldn't mic it super, super close like I used to. And just a straight 57 sounds better than the Beta 57. You can control bleed by the way you play, or gating anyway. So, let's see. So doing the cymbal thing to begin with. Yeah, so that makes a pretty big difference. Normal gate. Okay, so this is a thing. So since this mic is so distorted, if the kick and the snare hit at the same time, which they do a bit in this, you're just getting so much kick come through the mic, and the compressors are reacting to that too much. So rather than high passing, because if you high pass it, the relationship of the phase between this mic and all the other mics with the snares coming through get wonky, and it sounds bad and hollow, and you'd pretty much have to do the same high pass to all the mics to make it sound right again. If you just do this, which is a bell, like a square bell, you get the same result, but you don't get those phasing issues for some reason. I don't really know why. And boosting some 2K. So this snare just has this weird scooped area at 2K for some reason. I'm not sure why. It's just not in there. And then I'm doing this low end boost, and I'm doing it dynamically. I'll show you that. Yeah. So it's only doing that when the snare hits, because the snare again is so distorted. I just don't want that frequency ever present, just rolling through the mix. I kind of just want it to punch in and out. And the reason why I've done it as a square is because with this pearl snare, the low fundamental is very, very narrow. Compared to, say, like I have a Black Beauty now, and that the low fundamental is broad and nice sounding, whereas it's really narrow on this snare. So by doing it as a square, I try and bring the whole area up instead of just doing like the single frequency like that, because that just emphasizes how narrow and small that low end sounds. And then some 4K, and then the CQ must have been lazy there. Instead of boosting more of the fundamental, I've just boosted the low shelf. Naughty. A bunch of 1K, a bunch of highs. Yep, it's cool. So 1.5K and some more highs. And you have to stack these because there's basically only two knobs here, and if you want to use more than one band, you have to stack them up. And then this valve exciter, just to try and give it some more life because it was so dead, boosted a bunch of these harmonics, distorting the crap out of it. You can hear, I mean, it obviously gets a lot quieter, but it's a lot more narrow sounding and clicky. You turn this on, it's a lot broader sounding, and it can kind of just sink into the guitars a bit more. And it's gated again. I think this was just because this thing's really noisy when you distort stuff. So this is just getting rid of the noise. Another CQ, 3.5K, and some high end. With all the distortion, the cymbals got wacky again, so this is just... And then a little distressor on it, just to make it a bit punchier. So it's only on 50%, but it is 20 to 1. Computer's freaking out. But yeah, it's just making it push a bit more air. Okay. So... snare bottom. So this isn't going to sound very nice. This is just kind of like me trying to create this like lengthy white noisy sound. This is that same mic that I was using for the kick before. So yeah, using this to EQ it, so not distorting the lobes, but distorting the mids and the highs a lot. Yeah. Valve exciter, of course. Doing a bit there. Yeah, just making it a bit flatter sounding because I don't want to get any punch out of this mic. And distorting it some more. You can hear how clicky it is. That makes it a lot longer sounding, a lot more like that white noise thing. That's just me finding a level. And then me getting rid of the low fundamental because I just want that coming from one mic. So if we hear the snare top and the snare bottom together, yeah, it just makes it a bit rattier sounding. Sorry, my computer is freaking out. Okay, and then the snare room mono. So this is that same room mono mic that I was using for the kick before, but here I've just got it opening for the snare. So it's gated to only open when the snare hits. And I know this is a lot of processing. I like to use plugins. Like, I'm not like a car guy. Like, these are my toys. I like to process stuff. I like to see how far I can take it, and it's just fun for me. I know people would shake their head at how much processing it is, but it's what I do. It's what I like to do. Okay, that's important. Helping that cymbal get out of the way. And then, yeah, here's an extreme, I think. Yeah, here's an extreme version of that low bell instead of a low cut. And this is essentially, it should be a high pass, but it's the phasing thing just doesn't happen. It's just better if I do it like this. And then just cutting some high end out. And then this pawn shop comp thing that I said that I never use, and I'm using on like everything on this mix. Just killing the attack. Making it less sharp. Some Fab Filter Satin, distorting the mid-range, getting that cool boxy mid-range. Some CQ. Yeah, so on the snare drum, I'll always try and have some kind of room mic, and I'm always looking for this sort of noise in the room mono mic, like, and it's always around the 700, 800 to 1K area, depending on the tuning. On this mic, I guess it was 1K. I'll try and show you the noise I'm talking about. This is with it on. Off. On. Off. Yeah, I just really like that sound. Making it less sharp once again, just cutting some attack off of it. And then some more EQ. Yeah, just boosting some ratty mid-range. Okay, so a thing I do is I try and have the gate open as long as I can before the next thing hits that I don't want out of the mic. So in this snare mic, I don't want crash and I don't want kick. So if I take this Altiverb off, you will hear what I'm doing with the gate on this mic. I'm turning the release all the way down because I want the mic open full volume as long as I can before the next thing comes through. And if you do more release, so it tapers off in a more natural way, you're losing some of the volume. You're losing some of the volume before it cuts off. So I have the hold as far as I can get it before everything else is coming through it, and I have the release all the way down, and then I put this reverb on it just to make it sound more natural without the other crap coming through. Off. On. Yeah. So that's what that's about. And then a big part of this snare drum sound is just using this room mono mic again, but just as the room mono mic. So this isn't gated in any way. It's just that room mono mic open, and I don't know what this is doing. Okay, yeah, so I was using this, I was feeding the hi-hat mic into this to pull down that specific area around here whenever the hi-hat hits, because I wanted this mic to be nice and bright, because I like the crash coming through it. I like the crash to be as much in the center as I can get it, just to make the kit sound more natural. But the hi-hats sound really bad through this mic. So if we wait till the hi-hat hits, this will be cutting the hi-hat. Yeah. It's trying to. It didn't really work. Again, just being lazy. What I should have done is automated this on and off when the hi-hat... maybe I did automate that off. Okay. Yeah, I did it, just not for the chorus. Okay, so yeah, that's what I should have done, because I want that on for the crash, but when the hi-hat hits... Yeah, I don't know. I was moving quickly, I guess. Got lazy there. So I am getting rid of the low end because I don't want any of the kick out of this mic. The kick without all the distortion and stuff didn't sound very good in this mic. Again, dynamically, that's coming up with the snare, making it punchier sounding. Some cool boxy mid-range and some cool high end for the crash, making it a bit hi-fi sounding. Some high end and some mid-range. Yeah. Again, finding the volume with that. And this is cool. So this is making the overall snare sound brighter, but not in a harsh or clicky sort of way. So instead of boosting this area in the snare top mic, it's cool. I like to boost it in a mic that's further away from the kit, so you're still getting this airy, awesome, bright sounding snare, but it doesn't have that really harsh, ear-poking attack to it. So this is just a way to make the snare sound brighter. Yeah, you'll see it popping open whenever the snare hits. And I think... So also, I kind of just wanted that area to stay open if the crashes or things weren't hitting. So there's some spots where I've automated the threshold just so that stays open. So say if there's a fill or something that I want to sound more special, I'll just automate that to stay all the way open. Okay, yeah, so let's hear all the snare stuff together. So that's what all the snare stuff sounds like. Oh yeah, and so there's this extra channel snare distort, which you can see only comes on in the choruses and this part here. So sometimes instead of just automating the volume level of the snare drum, say in the chorus or something like that, I'll just actually duplicate the mic and do a different treatment to the mic, sort of to have it come through in an area where there's actually some space for it to come through in the chorus. So if we have a look at this, this will all be the same processing as the snare top until this. So this is distorting the crap out of it. Yeah. And because I was doing that, I had to do this cymbal thing some more. I'm distorting it some more with this a lot. And then, okay, pulling out these overtones here. Yeah, that's kind of the area where you can hear the tuning change a lot. So I've just pulled that out there. Cool. So yeah, that's that. Alright, drum rooms. So the room that I had at the studio was pretty small. It was like 4 meters by 3 meters. And the shop, the studio actually used to be a shop, and it was, so I had a low shop ceiling, but the ceiling was ruined, like there was all holes and stuff in it. So we had to build a ceiling even lower than the low ceiling to fix that and do some acoustic treatment to the ceiling and all that kind of stuff. So it's a really small sounding drum room. So there's a couple of things I did to combat that. I would have the room mics facing the back wall instead of facing the kit. And then there's some processing things. So just trying to get some more thumpy kick in there. Yeah, that's cool. That will help when the toms are playing too. Oh man, I've had that solid the whole time. Oh well. Okay, so yeah. And then this Fab Filter Satin on there just to distort the mid-range. Yeah, that just makes it sound like a bigger room. Just clipping off the top end of the attacks there. Some boosting some thumpy low end and some high end. Some high end to make it more hi-fi, some 1K to make it more natural sounding. This pawn shop comp again. That's without it. Sounds like a small drum room. Yeah, that helps a lot. And then this would just be me finding the volume. Okay, so another thing I did to make this drum room sound smaller is at the back of the drum room, there was a door that led to a small kitchen, and then up a couple of stairs, there was a toilet, and it was like a tile toilet. And I would throw 2 mics in there, my Rode NT1s. They were really cheap, large diaphragm condensers, and I'd just face them against the back wall of the toilet, and then close the door to the toilet to get more of a diffused sound. And it was pretty far away from the kit, so it was a really cool reverby sound, and I didn't ever have to use reverb on drums. If I just wanted like a really reverby moment, I would just turn the mics up for that point. So those sound like this. Which is a pretty cool sound. And if you put the small rooms on, and then I'll solo these toilet mics as well, and you hear the difference it makes. Yeah, makes it sound like a much bigger room. Okay, so processing wise, you have to lop off all the low ends because the mics are so far away. All the low end in that will just sound like random rumble in the mix because it's so delayed that it's not going to be in time with what the kit's playing. But here with the mid-range and stuff, it's cool, just like floaty, gooey mid-range. That doesn't really matter that it's out of time. And then I'm just cutting off some top end, and I think these bands here would be automated on when I'm playing some fills and stuff like that, just to make the fills sound a bit more special. And then this is just me finding a volume again. So I've taken this mic, these toilet mics, and duplicated them. And I've just got them opening for the snare, not all the time, just in the choruses and big parts. So it's gated to the snare. It's doing this cymbal thing, because I don't want any cymbals coming through in this one. Yep, those same filters, just a little bit different EQ in the mid-range. This is that sound I'm talking about, so boosting a bunch of 800 and 1K to get that. I'll show that on and off. Yeah, it sucks without that. That makes it so much better. And this is just getting rid of some of that attack, making it longer sounding. Some cool ratty mid-range, and then CQ, just making it a bit more hi-fi. Okay, so one thing I forgot for the snare drum mic is this channel here. So at the time I was experimenting with this method called Underheads, which is an Eric Valentine thing. Or instead of having the cymbal mics or the overhead mics over the kit over the top, they're underneath the cymbals halfway between the shells and the cymbals. And you use large diaphragm condensers and you have them in figure 8, so they're picking up as much as the cymbal above as they're picking up the shells below. And I don't really know if I like that technique at all. I don't use it anymore because when I want the cymbals louder in the mix, I just want to be able to turn the overheads up and have the cymbals get louder rather than bringing up all this crap like not very good sounding kick and snare and toms because you've EQ'd to the cymbals sort of thing. Like I just want a lot of cymbal in there. And with the underheads, you're just bringing up a bunch of gunk you don't really want. But anyway, what I've done here is I've split them up. So this version here is gated to only open when the snare hits. And it's a pretty cool punchy sound because they're so close to the cymbals. I'm just doing the soothe thing to try and pull out some cymbal. Okay, so pulling, because the kick and the snare are hitting at the same time, I'm trying to pull out some of that low end, boosting some punchy low mids and cutting out some more cymbals there. And then the distressor on 50%, nuke, just doing some more, just making it punchier sounding. And then this would just be me finding a volume. So let's actually hear how that sounds with the snare bus, because I didn't have that on before. So that's on. This is off. On. Yeah, it just makes it a bit punchier sounding. It's hard to hear in the headphones, but it makes it also a bit more stereo sounding. Let's look at the toms. Let's find a spot with the toms. Let's do this. Okay, so these toms were clear skins on my Mapex kit with a bunch of moon gels on them, which is also something I definitely wouldn't do now. I always use coated skins on my toms. It sounds so much better. Those plastic heads just have this clicky, annoying attack to them that's just really short and harsh sounding. And to emphasize that even more, I used a 421 on the rack tom, which, yeah, just makes that problem worse. I don't like that microphone for toms. I ended up selling it. But anyway, this is what I've ended up with the toms. So they're really distorted. The rack tom, let's start there. So, I don't know, boosting some 550 for whatever reason. Okay, yeah, using Saturn to EQ here. This will make a big difference if I turn it on and off. Yeah, that's the EQ, and it's really distorted too, to help that attack be a bit more spread out and longer. Valve exciter, it does have a sound just being on without doing anything, but okay, an EQ not doing anything. Okay, CQ, this is doing something. So boosting from 3.5k and some high end. I mean, it sounds cool without it, but we just needed that to cut through the mix, cut through the distorted guitars. And this is a cool thing to do here, is just boosting, finding the low fundamental of the tom and boosting that rather than just, you know, boosting a low shelf and all this low end into the tom, and then you get it loud and it kills your master bus. And this way you can just have it a lot louder and it takes up a lot less space. That's off. It's on. And then valve exciter again. This time I'm just boosting the harmonics and a bit of bass. Yeah, so that kind of gives it more of those cool overtones that make it sound more like it's a coated skin. That's what I'm doing with that harmonics thing. All right, so here's another case of the underheads. So I have the underheads, 2 sets of them, that same channel though, but only to open when the toms hit. So this one here is only opening when the rack tom hits, and it sounds like this. Yeah, so it's gated. We've got soothe on it to pull out that cymbal, pulling out more cymbals. Valve exciter, this is where all the distortion's coming from. It's quite distorted. Yep. And then that same low mid boost. So let's hear the tom with and without that. Let's without. With. Yeah. I've done the same thing with the floor tom. So this is the floor tom by itself. So EQ doing nothing. This is me EQing it with Saturn. Yeah, that's doing pretty much all the EQing. Boosting some 1.5K there. Yep, doing that same move, finding the fundamental, boosting it up that way. Putting some cool, roary low mids back in. Valve exciter, of course. Harmonics all the way up. Yeah. Yeah, it makes it sound less scooped and more like a coated skin. And then just some top end. And then the underhead for this floor tom mic will sound like this. And I've got this stereo channel thing. I've automated the left side of the channel down whenever the rack tom's hitting at the same time, because I didn't want any phasing issues between the rack tom and the floor tom, because I've actually had to flip the phase on the floor tom to get it to sound right against the rooms, which means this set of underheads here and this set of them there are actually out of phase. So I don't want those two open at the same time. So whenever they hit at the same time, I automate the rack tom, the left side, out of this underhead down. Soothe, pulling the cymbal out, doing the cymbal pull out thing again. Boosting a lot of bass on this. And driving it a lot. And then, yeah, that same low boost there. So let's hear that. So that's with the underhead. Without. Yep. And so another thing I'm doing on this underhead here is there's this part through the verse where I'm riding on the floor tom, and this is another thing I've learned is the molar technique when it comes to drumming isn't the end all be all. Sometimes it's cool to kind of play a part with your right hand with no feel. I think a drummer's instinct when playing a part like this was dum ga dum da dum ga dum da, is sort of have, you know, the hard hit with the snare, dum ga dum da, but that means you can't really hear the floor tom in between the snare hits, and the floor tom's only really getting hit hard with the snare, whereas it should be probably louder in between the snare hits to make it come through, because it's always so hard to mix, you know, when someone's riding on the floor tom. So what I've done with this Saturn here is just pulled the dynamics all the way up, like I said I did on the other mic, to make it longer sounding, and it will make the floor tom cut through on those softer hits. So I'll show you what I've done there, and that's just automated to come in on those parts. Yeah, so that only comes on in the verse, and that just helps that part cut through more. Yeah, there's just way too much snare in the tom mic otherwise. Then on the tom bus, I've just done more of that cymbal-y thing. Okay, let's have a look at the cymbals. So here's the underheads again, but left wide open as the overheads for the kit. So there's a lot of China and stuff in this song, but I didn't have a spot mic for the China, and there's a lot of ride, and there's no spot mic for the ride either. So I'm having to do a lot of automation to bring the China and the ride up whenever they do, which is kind of a nightmare. But anyway, this is what the underheads sound like. So I'm just doing what I can to just get cymbals out of this mic. I don't want any of the snare, I don't want any kick, because I've already made a channel of these underheads optimized for the snare. So I've high passed it aggressively up to 500, and then this will be catching the snare picks, I think. Yeah. Boosting some high end. Some tape. It's okay if it clips a little bit, it just kind of makes the cymbal sound a little bit longer. That's just me setting the level. Soothe. Yeah, that helps a lot. I don't want to turn that off. I'll just show you here some of the automation on the overheads. You can see down here what's going on. How I was saying I'll automate the high end up when the China and the crash hits, because the hi-hats are already bright enough in these underheads. I'll always do this because I never have a match pair of cymbals, so they're all different and they're all different amounts of brightness. I either drag each time a different cymbal hits onto a different channel, or I'll just automate an EQ to move around. I didn't have to do it heaps on this one, but yeah, it's just mainly this high end. So you'll see it moving through here. Yeah, so that just helps it sound more balanced, the cymbal. Also, I'm having to automate the volume between each cymbal because they're a fair bit different. I don't really compress my overheads. I normally will just automate volume because I kind of want that splashy, punchy sound in my overheads. I don't like that washy, blurry overhead sound. So that's that. Alright, and then I've got a hi-hat mic here. Nothing interesting. And trying to pull the snare out of it. Yeah. Just trying to get that painful mid-range out of it. That's just me setting the level. And this mic, I just left it on all the time. I didn't gate it out just for the hi-hat or anything like that. Anyway, that is the drums. Let's have a little listen to the drums. So you can really hear the gates opening and close when you solo it, but you don't hear that amongst the guitars and stuff like that. It's not such an issue. That's the drums. I think another thing I forgot to mention is on the kick bus, I have this trans X multi just punching up there. This big subby thing is only automated to come on in the choruses. So yeah, see, it doesn't come on there. But in the choruses, just to get a little bit more sub, and I'm playing, the beat is a lot slower in the chorus, so there's more room for that. Anyway, moving on to bass. So this bass was a Mexican P bass, black top, and it has some kind of humbucker in it, and it's kind of weird sounding. There's nothing exciting going on here. I've split the bass up into low and high, so I can control how much sub against how much aggressive mid-range to blend into the guitar. The bass ended up sounding like this. So the low channel sounds like this. A lot of EQ going on there. And so the reason why this stuff is happening is because I played this bass super inconsistently. At the time, I was using these really big, the purple Dunlop picks, and trying to pick as hard as I could, and the string slaps all over the place. And what you end up with is a very inconsistent bass take. You can probably see there the bass, and I think the bass may have even been compressed on the way in, and it's super inconsistent. It's just up and down all over the place. So what I've learned now is using a smaller pick. You don't have to pick as hard, still pick pretty hard, but you get a much more consistent take. You won't have to limit it as much, and you won't have all this crap poking out where you have to dynamically do this. But yeah, this is me just like trying to counteract that and get the bass to sit in an area where it's not messing with the guitars or where it can actually be heard. So that is the bass low. And it's pretty fuzzy sounding because I'm having to limit it so much because it's jumping all over the place. And then we've got this bass high. So this is the same DI, Helix native. And I think I just clicked through and tried to find an amp that was fuzzier sounding instead of like clicky and attacky and gritty sounding. I don't really like that metally clicky sounding bass. I kind of want it to be like fuzzier. So this is pretty fuzzy. Yep. Just cutting all the lows out of it because the lows are coming from that other one. There's always, with this bass, there's always these overtones. And they get worse depending on what part it is. And then, I don't know, this is just me trying to bring some more presence into it, but then roll it off. Yeah, it sounds harsher with that off. It sounds a bit more open that way, but brighter. Cool. I've got Soothe on it to just tame down that clicky, gross area. Apparently I've got Valve Exciter on there. Satin on there, just distorting that high end. Again, I don't want those high end bits to be clicky. I want them to be like kind of flat and saturated. So that's what that's doing. This was an area that sounded a bit dumb. It's kind of that area. It wasn't really adding any note definition. It's just annoying. And then this is a weird thing I've been experimenting with, is putting a stereo slap on the bass high, just because I don't know, I just find mixing bass really boring. I find playing bass really boring. I don't like tracking it, so I'm always trying to find something to make it more interesting for me. So I've been doing this and I like it. So if we play those two mics together, this is just a DI, by the way, this is just bass DI. Play those two things together. So you might be able to hear there's a flanger on it. That's another new thing I've been messing around with. It's a very like 90s or early 2000s thing to do. Again, just trying to make bass exciting for me. So I've got this flanger on there, which moves it from left to right a little. Just makes it more fun. And then some more EQ, just trying to fit it in the mix, move it out of the way of the snare so I can have it louder, and then just a little bit of limiting with this on the bass. And that's the bass. So the other thing with the bass, in the chorus, in comes these samples. I'll show you this one. And so this was a sound off Massive, Native Instruments Massive. I was poor at the time, and I couldn't afford to buy it, so I had the demo, and I don't know if you can do this now, but with the demo it would just turn off every so often so that you can use it all the time. Like it would work for, I don't know, 2 minutes, and then it would turn off for ages. And what I would actually do is I'd go through and I'd find sounds for this, and as soon as I'd find a sound, I'd record it in so I could keep it. Like I'd just bounce it straight in, and the plugin would turn off, and I'd, open the session and just keep doing that and clicking through the sounds and getting as many in as I could while the plugin was active before it turned off. So all this stuff is from just a demo mode of Massive, and I'm just cutting some like presency stuff. Like it does not need that. Doesn't sound good. So that makes a big difference in the chorus there. And then this is something I wouldn't do now either. It's this really subby bass, again off Massive, layered with the real bass. And on this you can actually hear it kind of like going out of phase with my bass, because the bass and the guitar aren't edited to the grid on this. I've just kind of played them and left them. And because this bass is to the grid, you hear them go in and out, but I thought it's in the session, I might as well put it in. Sounds cool by itself. Sounds like this. Okay, so all the bass stuff together. That's all of it. cool fun sound. Okay, let's do some guitars. So the guitars on this were my Framus Cobra, which you can see behind me there, through that orange cabinet, with just an SM57 on it, an 808 pedal, and the guitar would have been my Ibanez with the MISHAP Mansour bare knuckle pickups, the first ones, Juggernauts. And it's an okay guitar recording. It was really scooped. So they ended up sounding like this. Okay, so a lot of EQ. So this Framus amp, for whatever reason, if you have the channel volume below full, there's these really gross sounding overtones that are like out of balance and out of tune. If you have the volume all the way up on the channel, it sounds really nice and less fizzy. I'm not sure why, but I didn't know this at the time, so it's got a lot of that in it. So this is just me trying to get rid of those harsh fizzy overtones. And there's just a dead spot in my cabinet here, so often I'll just boost that back in. You can see it there on the spectrum analyzer. Like, I want it there because I want to get as much. I want these guitars to have as much chance as they can to fight through the mix, because this mix is very dense. I think on the way in I did a low pass filter, like, I don't know, up to 10k or something, which is what I always used to do, which is, I don't like that. I wouldn't do that now. I like all that spitty high end you can hear of, like, in the tubes. So this is just me trying to add that back in. This is with it. Without it. It just sounds more expensive and cool with it on. Yeah, as I said, these were quite scooped. This is me just trying to bring more of that note, that low note in. CQ, boosting some 1K. Just have the note a bit more distinguishable. And this is something I don't normally do, but I saw Andrew Wade do this once actually. Is just, instead of using a compressor on the guitar, is using this. So each time a guitar part comes in, this pops open. So on a part like this, where it's got stops and starts, it's got that cool burst of air coming in. That clicky sound isn't part of it. Those are just some really bad edits. I didn't do any crossfades. I just recorded it and just left everything where it was. I don't know. I was super lazy. Okay, and then I've done more processing of the guitars on the guitar bus. So just some high end there. I'm just going to play... Let's play this. Necessary. Some more of this cool low end. Again, it was too scooped. Okay, so the tube screamer that I had would distort this area too much, and it would kind of make that area sound weird when you had the tone in the middle. So I often have to do that because it just sounds weird in that area. Just a little bit. And this is a move I saw Corey Brennerman do. I think that's how you say his name. It's just a little bit of stereo widening, just 14 out of 100. And I mainly did it because it just makes the guitars sound louder without having to turn them up. Sounds like and of course puts them out a bit further out of the way of the center, out of the vocals. And this is just me adding some beef dynamically. I just really wanted to get some cool chunk out of these guitars. I'll show you that. Yeah, I like that. That's cool. So with guitars, often I'll do multiple passes of the song. Like sometimes the chorus guitar tone will be different from the verse guitar tone, or the bridge guitar tone will be different from the chorus guitar tone, because I find that not one tone fits every part, especially with a lot of the Admel stuff, just because it changes, the genre kind of shifts a lot from part to part. In this song, I didn't do that. I wasn't doing that yet. But I found in this bridgy part here, the guitar kind of goes up to a higher register, and there was this really harsh, yeah, these two here, these harsh overtones. So I've automated them to come on just for the bridge. Yeah, that's the part it's bad on. So if I turn that EQ automation off, and so you can hear what I'm talking about there. Yeah, that's just a bit too painful for that part. I mean, it didn't matter so much in the chorus and the verses, those weren't as prominent, but there, yeah, it definitely needed that. One other thing you can probably see is I'm doing a lot of automation on the guitar bus, just whenever I do a widdly part, because all the widdly parts, it's in a higher register, and those higher registers just don't seem to take up as much frequency bandwidth. In the chorus, the widdly part is going up 2.5 dBs. I'll show you that. Yeah, that isn't making it sound more even sounding, but I just wanted that part to pop out a bit more in the mix. So. Yeah, it's not so bad. Okay, and then these are another set of guitars in the chorus, which are just playing octaves, and I think these were an amp sim. I don't know what they were, but nothing interesting. They're panned out less than the rhythms. They have delay on them. Don't know what the source of that was either. So that was all of them. Alright, then I have all this junk that I was talking about with Massive, because it was demo mode and I was having to move quickly. I was just getting all these sounds and putting them all in case I wanted them, and I just end up using them all. We've got this bell when it comes in. It's just a cool church bell. And then Evil Bell, and these just have, some doubler on them to get them out of the way of the guitars, some of that space modular, that flanger. I think this plugin's free, you just have to take a survey, by the way. It's really cool. It just moves them around a bit so you hear it poking out. This would just be me setting the level. I think this was expand, because this sounds really shit. It's meant to be a choir. Yeah, just putting doubler on it. Get out of the way of the guitars a bit if I can. Whenever any big bit comes in, I just have these crashes come. I just make impacts sound heaps cooler. And they are... I think what I'd do every time I'd have a drummer record is I'd get them to hit both crashes. And so I think this set here is of the actual kit that I was playing, and then this set here was from another session I did with the band, maybe the Scapegoats, which were a punk band, and that's their set of overheads there, just for when parts come in. Okay, so in the chorus, there is a shaker. And this was expand, I think. I did have a shaker, but I must have just been lazy. yeah, that's from Expand, which is a Pro Tools plugin. And then this tambourine, which I didn't use much of, this is from Expand as well. It just doesn't sound very good. So that's all in there. I'll play the chorus and I'll turn those on and off. You can hear a bit more excitement. Would you feel me one more time? Or would you leave me stranded, baby? I can't hold on to this, baby. Yeah, it makes it a bit more fun. And then there is this drone, which is again from Massive in the chorus, which I don't have super loud in the mix, but it's cool. Just kind of makes it spacey and airy. And then this is my favourite sound that I got from Massive. So this is a pan flute sample, and it was very bright, so I've just pulled out all that top end and pulled out a bunch of low end, but it sounds like this. The part is really cool. Love that part. It makes this chorus like sound like soil work or something, you know? Would you feel me one more time? Or would you leave me stranded, baby? I can't hold on to this, baby. Light us both on fire. 'Cause I have nowhere left to hide. And you were just a little crazy. Yeah, love that part. And then the last thing is I have this breakdown here, and another cool sound off Massive. It's just a cheesy synth sound. It just makes this part sound like it's out of a horror movie or something, you know. It makes it less like metal and boring and more fun. Sounds like this. So another thing off Massive is this thing I've labelled X-Files, because it kind of sounds like the X-Files intro. It's just a cool, quirky sound for the bridge. I really like this part. I can't remember what the patch was called on Massive, but it's pretty cool. It sounds like this. So it's kind of a goofy part, but it's, I don't know, it's pretty. Just cutting off some high end. Oh yeah, that's right. These are really bright if I take this off. Yeah, it's nicer with the EQ on. You kind of just hear more of the droney note. Alright, so that is all the instrumentation there. Okay, so everything I just showed you is going through this music bus. The only thing that doesn't go through here is the vocals. And this music bus has some compression on it. I normally don't compress on the master or on the music bus. This is a new thing for me. I couldn't ever get it right. It just always made my mixer sound smaller, but I'm getting used to it. I find this does it in a really cool way. If you get this thrust thing right, it makes the drum sound really cool and punchy. And this is probably the first mix I've done in ages where I don't actually have compression on the drum bus at all. I normally have distresses on the drum bus, but because the music bus is compressed, I kind of didn't have to do that. You kind of got a lot of punchy stuff going on here. So I'll show you with and without. Without. It's a little bit hard to tell because when I have it turned off, the mix is a lot louder, but this is making it a lot punchier sounding with the snare and the kick. And I think it's normal on the thrust detector. It just makes the kick sound really cool. These ones don't make it sound as punchy, but you put it on normal and it's super punchy. I've got it in feedback mode, which helps it sound a bit more natural. 3-to-1, fast release, 30 millisecond attack there. Okay, and then this is also something I wouldn't normally do, but this is a quick mix and I was being lazy. So I boosted some high end on all the music there. Just lazy, you know. I probably could have just gone to the guitars and the cymbals and just done that and it would have been better. And then there's this Saturn thing, this Magic Mastering BM. I don't really know what this is doing, but it scoops it out a little bit, which is a downside to it. But it just makes it sound cooler. Let's pick a part where you'll be able to hear it better. I'll show you what it sounds like on and off. It just makes it sound finished, and it's kind of like cheating because I don't really know what it's doing. I changed some of the stuff, but I don't really know what these slots are doing. And at a certain point, I put this on, and then I mixed through it. So if you mixed all the way to completion and then put this on, it might not work for you, but I kind of put it on early-ish in the mix. Okay, that is all the music stuff. Let's have a look at the vocals. Let's just solo the vocals in the chorus.
Would you feel me one more time? Or would you leave me stranded, baby? I can't hold on to this flame and light us both on fire. Cause I got nowhere left to hide. And you were just a little crazy. And I love the way you make me feel, the way I make you feel.
So it's a very layered up part. There's me singing in there, and then all the rest of it is Aline. And man, he's got such a cool voice. I love his voice. I love his melodies. Okay, so we have the main take of the vocal in the chorus. I recorded these vocals with a U67 tube mic, which is something I haven't done in ages. I always use my trusty SM7B. For my vocals and most other stuff because I just always felt like it sounded better for whatever reason. But I actually like, these sound really good, these vocals recorded on the U67. I had to do a lot of processing because there's this area in the mic, and I don't know if it's because I dropped the mic a few times, but in the high end, it doesn't sound right. There's some areas that you need to work on a lot, and they just sound a little bit weird. And I'll try and show you what I'm talking about. If I can just solo one of these bands. Yeah, that. It's just like so distorted and messed up when I was running the pre super clean. Like there's no distortion happening. It's just that mic just sounds weird up in that area. So I've got this thing pulling it down and then just trying to tame it and boost it at the same time. And this is a newer thing for me as well, as dynamically pulling down this low mid, because sometimes when you just EQ that out and the singer hits a note where this area isn't affecting it, the note can sound really thin, but then you put that area back in and then you can sing a low note and it'll bloom too much. So doing it this way is really cool. And there's this really crazy overtone up here. I don't know if you'll hear it here with this mic, but you have to dip it out.
Would you feel me one more time? Or would you leave me stranded?
Yeah, it's just like distorted, filtered off bad noise. But yeah, let's have a listen.
Would you feel me one more time? Or would you leave me stranded, baby? I can't hold on.
So you can hear that weird distorted noise up in that area, but in the mix it's not so bad. I think ultimately that sounds pretty cool. This is another audio thing plug-in. This is that Type A Dolby trick where I can't remember what you actually do, but you pull a card out of this noise reduction unit or something and it compresses the high end and makes it brighter sounding. This is the first time I've ever used this, and I used it because I heard that Killswitch Engage used it on their vocals, and this is very metal, so I went for that. I'll turn it on and off.
Would you feel me one more time? Or would you leave me stranded, baby? I can't hold on to this flame and light us both on fire.
So that's pretty cool. It scoops out that honky mid-range and it makes it a bit brighter on the top end. And I'll probably use that a bit more because anything I can do to the vocals without having to carve out with heaps of EQ, I like to do. Like mixing vocals is just hard, man. And so these were compressed with a distressor on the way in, but I thought they could use a little more compression. So this is the setting I use with my 1176, my hardware version when I'm recording vocals now.
Would you feel me one more time? Or would you...
So it's very compressed. This soothe is just trying to help that messed up, distorted high end, but also pull out some ringy overtones because he's singing really high. Sometimes there's these strainy overtones, so this helps that a lot. I'll turn it on and off.
Would you feel me one more time? Or would you leave me stranded, baby? I can't hold on to this flame and light us both on fire.
Makes it a lot smoother sounding. Just boosting a bit of presence there, nothing too exciting. This de-esser is the best de-esser ever. All other de-essers suck. I haven't tried the FabFilter one, but with the Waves one, you have to use like 4 different de-essers at different frequencies to catch everything. But with this one, you can catch everything with one setting.
Would you feel me one more time? Or would you leave me stranded, baby? I can't hold on to this flame and light us both on fire.
Love it. And then some tape. I'm just clipping this tape. Just make it sound a bit more brighter and immediate.
Would you feel me one more time? Or would you leave me stranded, baby? I can't hold on to this.
Just makes it sound a bit more like famous, like a bit more done. And then this is a new thing for me as well. Just a bit more compression.
Would you feel me one more time? Or would you leave me stranded, baby?
The volume distance is a bit deceiving there, but these compressors actually have like a sound and EQ curve to them, so you kind of got to mix into them. If you finished EQing your vocals and you put this on, your vocals are going to sound different. So if I'm going to use any of these Klanghelm things, I always will put it on to begin with and mix into it. And so we just have a double of the vocal, which is the same treatment but 8 dB quieter. And then a left and right vocal, which I think is the same treatment again, but just de-essed harder. And I think, yeah, pulling out some more lows and pulling out some more mid-range, so they kind of like are less distinguishable. They're just more tucked back. They aren't panned out all the way. They're like 60%. I used to pan my chorus vocals hard left and hard right, but that sounds weird. Like, I don't know, that just sounds weird to me now. So having them a bit more centered sounds better to me. So those with the main vocal will sound like this.
Would you feel me one more time? Or would you leave me stranded, baby? I can't hold on.
Yep. They sound like that. Okay, and then what else do we have in the chorus? So there's me singing a harmony. So I'm impressed with how smooth this microphone makes my voice sound. I always use the SM7B because I've got like a nasally mid-rangey sounding voice, and SM7Bs are meant to be good to be a bit more forgiving with that, and that was part of why I didn't use this, because I was in my head about it, but it sounds pretty good. Like, this is no EQ.
Would you feel me one more time? Or would you leave me stranded, baby? I can't hold on to this flame and light us both on fire.
So yeah, it's just a doubled harmony and some EQ. Pull it out of the main
Would you
vocal.
feel me one more time?
Makes it sound less good, but it's necessary to have them, to be able to get them loud enough.
Flame and light us both on fire. 'Cause I got nowhere left to hide, and you were just a little crazy, and I love the way you make me feel.
Yep, so we got that. I baked in these delay throws when I was recording it the first time before I sent it off, which is cool. They just add a little bit of fun stuff in between the vocal passages. Sound like this.
Would you feel me one more time? Or would you leave me stranded, baby? I can't hold on to this flame and light us both on fire. 'Cause I
Cheesy, but cool. And then I had Aline sing a lower version of just the melody, and they're both pens. I got 2 takes.
Would you feel
both
me
pen-centered.
one more time? Or would you leave me stranded, baby? I can't hold on to this flame.
Nothing interesting, just pulling out a bunch of lows and stuff like that, but trying to get it fit against the main and actually not make it sound like a separate take, but just a part of the main vocal. So with the main vocal, they sound like this.
Would you feel me one more time? Or would you leave me stranded, baby? I can't hold on to this flame and light us both on fire. 'Cause I got nowhere left to hide.
So kind of subtle, but cool. This guy's got such a cool voice, man. Okay. So vocal bus. I just have this API thing, same as what's on the music bus, just slower attack. Just gluing it all together a bit. The CQ is doing nothing. I must have been experimenting with that. And then that is doing nothing also. As far as effects go, I've got the stereo slap. I'll just solo the main vocal so you can hear that.
Baby, I can't hold on to this flame and light us both on fire.
Just a cool vibey slap. And then the only other reverb I have going on the chorus is this Altiverb thing. And it's mono. Just using a mono reverb so I can have the guitars and all the stuff be really loud in the sides and then the vocals just in the center. So I'm de-essing it before it hits the reverb. So I'm not picking up any S's, and it's this setting I saw Eric Valentine use.
Would you feel me one more time? Or would you leave me stranded, baby?
By itself, it sounds like this. Soothe on there. Can be a bit ringy sounding. Just EQing it and try and just get the gooey mid-range, and yeah, that sounds cool. And the reverb is only on the main vocals. It's not on any of the doubles. All the doubles and the harmonies are completely dry, and the main vocal has the reverb, and it's only that and the stereo slap. In the verses, I'm not using that longer delay in the verses. I'm just using this space echo setting, which is also mono. This is a setting that I came up for a mono vocal verb, and it sounds like this. So it's all slappy, modulated, and it's mono again. I'm really getting into this mono vocal verb. I think it sounds a lot cooler, and it kind of puts the vocals in its own spot.
Things are a little different now. You don't need to stand alone, and I feel the need to share
Slap's still
the
there,
load. A burden shared is a burden half, so dump the weight on me. Things are a little different now.
So yeah, it just kind of fills in the gaps. It's this gooey, slappy, modulated, awesome delay. So there's one more vocal part. Aline's done a harmony in the bridge. I'm just going to play this part because this is like, honestly, this is probably my favorite vocal passage I've ever recorded. It's just gorgeous. I love it. His voice sounds so good. The part is like so sad and awesome sounding. His harmony is just same settings as the main vocal. There's nothing different going on there. I think this part has this Altiverb, this mono reverb on it. Sounds like this.
Will you be everlasting, or will you fall into the shadow? Into the shadow. Will you be everlasting, or
part so much. I'm going to play that section with the music because it's cool. So this riff that comes here in this bridge, it's very inspired by Ain't Talking About Love, as you can see this marker, by Van Halen. It's like my metal rip-off of that riff. Sounds like this. Cool. It's like the best part of the song. Okay, so that's it. That's my quick mix of this song. I hope you got something out of it. Like I said, this song doesn't exist anywhere at the moment. It used to be on YouTube, but it's gone. So this is the only existing version right now. I'm going to play the whole thing from start to finish, and I hope you enjoy. See ya.